Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Raceface.Pro, the Season 6, Round 5. This evening we are at Laguna Seca. Apologies for the delay. With no further ado, let us get into that quali board. And welcome to everyone that has joined or is about to join. Jumping over from the other stream. Good evening, Mr. Koenig. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Hawkins, and good evening, well, how can I say it? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Absolutely fantastic to be at Laguna Seca. It's nice and warm, as you can see. Currently 37 degrees on the, 37 degrees, 27 in the air, 27 degrees on circuit. So it is, 35 degrees on circuit. It is brilliantly hot out there. The drivers are currently loving it. We're loving it here. And a bit of a switch around in terms of the grid. The guys either enjoying Laguna Seca or dreading Laguna Seca. Some going and saying it's the Americans' version of Brands Hatch. Probably that's why I tend to enjoy it. Gareth, Laguna Seca for you, kind of a mixed bag as you previously had.
Well, one thing I do enjoy about Laguna Seca, it's again one of those little go-kart type tracks, nice and short, nice and tight. And what I do love is those little gradients that they have in the corners, so you can actually really stitch it as you go through. This little corkscrew though, man, let me tell you, if you don't get that right, if your front wheels are come off the ground there, trying to get grip again is a tricky thing. So it'll be interesting to see the guys pulling a couple of maneuvers there, because some would obviously not want to overshoot and others will be a lot more comfortable in that corner. So a couple of interesting sections in the track, I think, because as you come out of that corkscrew as well, that sweeping bend to the left, man, I tell you, it's going to make for some really interesting stuff tonight.
Well, if you think about it, the corkscrew is one of the iconic corners in the motor racing world. And it's basically a two-story drop in the real life to get down to the bottom. But enough with talking about the facts of the circuit. Let's go to the drivers, as Ryan Lewis leading out the field, Daniel Rowe in second place. We've got Anderson in third, Morgan Mccall, who's been on a bit of a charge and had a bit of rough luck recently, lying in fourth place. And Mark Antle in the Ferrari, as you can see, going around for Retro Slipstream. He's looking to try and climb up through the ranks, as it is going to be an incredible race. I know down in the pits, having a chat to the guys, the feel, the atmosphere, the guys are super excited to see what they can do here at Laguna Seca. And based on the times, we take a look, 1:21.5 was the quickest time done by Brian Lewis, which is absolutely incredible pace for what these guys are doing. And on average, that's some of the guys have been practicing. We're going to see an average of 122s, 123s with a full tank. So our pro tier definitely showing why they are the pro tier, and the level of competition is definitely going to be something to keep an eye out for.
Absolutely. Doing times of 121, I tell you, that's a quick time. My quickest time around here, and I thought I was flying around here like Superman, was sitting about a 124. So shaving 3 seconds off of that, I mean, that's a mile away.
That's it. So hopefully you've got your Hawkeye back in and ready to keep an eye out on the action. One of the things that all the drivers are a little bit worried about is coming up to the corkscrew, because obviously the times are so close. I mean, take a look between Brian Lewis and Daniel Rowe. Literally Morgan Mccall just comes out and changes that whole conversation. 0.04 of a second behind Brian Lewis. These guys are going to be right on top of each other, and everyone has spoken and said, when we come up to the corkscrew, let's take it easy and not try and dive each other. So there is an understanding amongst the drivers, which we don't get to see too often. And the guys know, hey, listen, we got to take it easy for the first couple of laps because it may end in tears. So nice to see it happening. But also taking a look, Junior Mccall down in 19th place. Now, I'm not sure what's going on with Junior Mccall. He has been in the pits the entire qualifying session and has not come out of the pits. So I'm not 100% sure whether he just kept getting the slight invalidations, getting a little bit frustrated, and maybe Mr. McCall said, "Listen, take a breather, calm down. When you go out for the race, you're gonna make an impact." And let's be honest, starting from last place, if there is mistakes that are done, you can move up quite quickly. So maybe that's a different idea from the ATK team, to have Junior a little bit towards the back and say, right, we're going to go and give it everything we got further up.
Well, one thing we also mustn't forget, outside of these interesting little bends, is the sand traps. Once your tires get stuck in there, it's a real challenge. So the guys have to really keep it tight, try and stay on the track. If they start skidding out, they're going to lose a lot of time. It's really difficult. So in the first lap, a couple of guys, a bit of argy-bargy and a corner or two, a bit of sand. And the next thing you know, you're sitting comfortably close to top 10.
Absolutely. And just taking a look at our YouTube comments, Ken going and pointing out that Junior has got a quali ban for maximum, on the penalty point. So well done, Ken. Thank you very much for giving that little bit of information. Definitely an oversight on my part, so I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, quali bans now coming into effect. We have seen race bans that have happened in previous seasons. Quali ban going out to Junior is going to hamper it a little bit, but in turn may be beneficial to start at the back. So it's all about smart thinking here. You've got 80 minutes of racing to make an impact. So still leading out the charge is going to be Brian Lewis, followed by Morgan McCall, Daniel Rowe in third place, fourth Luke Anderson, and Eugene van Longenberg, lying in fifth place. So that's going to be absolutely incredible to see the guys going and really pushing it to the limit, and literally being so close to one another is going to be an absolute treat for us tonight, right here at Laguna Seca. Qualifying is over. The drivers just trying to get the last of their laps in before we jump back, go into our race. And you saw Ryan Ottens coming across the line to go and end up in 14th place. Wasn't able to just push out of it. So I think this is going to be absolutely incredible, and no room for error, Gareth. That's for certain. These drivers are literally going to use every bit of the circuit and every opportunity to try and get past each other. And as I said a little bit earlier, there is a consensus of take it easy. We do not want to bin the race.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look all the way through that grid, 1 through to 19 on any given day can take it. It's whoever makes the least mistakes today, and on any given day, and especially this track. I tell you again, these sand traps, if you get caught up in that, if you slide out a bit, it's tickets for you.
That's it. So Brian Lewis going to lead out the grid. Morgan McCall in second place. Daniel Rowe jumping up to third place with Luke Anderson in fourth. And Eugene van Longenberg lying in fifth place is going to have an absolute treat as we get into it. There's a map of the Laguna Seca circuit. It was absolutely one of the most iconic circuits in America, and we're glad to be part of the Raceface GT3, round number 5 of our premier. This is our premier category that we have, our weekly category. And if you guys want to be part of it, come join Raceface. And also a big thank you to our sponsors for jumping on board with us for the season to make sure that we are able to have a fantastic run. Now, a lot of the drivers have been putting in some serious time around the circuit, and coming off the back of our GT3 Sprint Series that we had yesterday, learning the mistakes and learning where the limits of the car is as well in a race. So we're going to see some very, very interesting racing and strategies. Now, Gareth, you and I have a lot of fun with this because the last couple of rounds that we've been in and having a chat, fuel has been the problem. And that is because people under fuel and literally last lap, last corner, out of fuel. either getting across the line or, as we saw, going back a little bit, stopping 50 meters before the line.
So who are we going to put the bet on this evening?
I don't know. We're going to have to see when it comes to it. But ladies and gentlemen, and we want you guys at home as well, part of the race phase. We want to see you guys also posting it on our Facebook page. Who deserves the Noddy Badge Award? Yes, in the commentary box, Gareth and we're having a bit of a chin wag, if I can steal Gareth's words here a little bit. We're going to have a Noddy Badge Award for the biggest mistake. Now, this is not to go and be a negative connotation, but just a little bit of a fun thing that can go for it. And Gareth, might I add, we can also get the Noddy Badge Award. But
Absolutely.
I think that's
with the technical challenges, which we will not speak of, I was thinking on the first time we introduced this, I might be up for it. But luckily, we didn't miss quali, which means I'm still good to go.
So, that is up to you guys, ladies and gentlemen, to point out who's going to get the Noddy Badge 40 seconds before we get up and going on our formation lap for the guys to warm up their tires, warm up their brakes, go and kiss their loved ones goodbye as they go on to one of the most amazing circuits right here for our Raceface GT3 Season 6. And it's going to be absolutely everything to play for. Ken saying, good luck to everyone. Going to be exciting to see Junior race from last. Yes, the young man has got lots of hard work, Ken. And it's going to be interesting how he's going to climb up through it. But also taking a look, with points being on the line, you've got Hybrid Academy Team Velocity leading out the team standings, followed by Hybrid Academy Team Stealth in second place. ATK Academy's got has got their arms tied behind their back with Junior starting in last place. We've also got Hybrid Community Team lying in fourth, Retro, Electro, and Retro in fifth, with their sister team, Retro Neon, lying in sixth. Team Tryhard Racing in seventh place. Eighth place is Kinetic Simworks Prism. Ninth is Retro Esports. And 10th place is Team BWR Sloths. Now, I don't think they're a sloth if they're lying 10th in the standings, but it is absolutely incredible. Drivers and teams are going to have to work together, considering the season is starting to get to its final stages, if I may put it like that. So, Gareth, what's your thoughts as they're starting to make their way around? You can see guys working on the brakes, working on the tires, just trying to figure out the cars a little bit. What's your expectations for the start of the race, and all eyes being on Junior Mccall, who's usually up at the front?
Well, I tell you, I thought let me on the fly see how we can quickly add a little monitoring aspect to the stream. So before we go through to the live, I'm going to bring through a bit of a leaderboard where I've highlighted, well, this is the second monitor we're playing around with, so I've highlighted Mccall in blue right at the bottom, so on the odd occasion we can switch to this to see where our bets are in the race. So someone's already spoken of Junior Mccall in the chat, so he's highlighted. But him coming from the back, I think we won't see anything less from him. He's going to be hungry to get in that top 10, get some points. But again, the caliber of the field on any given day, you know, these guys are within milliseconds of each other. It's just going to be a phenomenal race, I think. Can't wait to see how these guys are going to treat each other in these final couple of corners in on every lap. Should be interesting.
As they work their way down corkscrew, starting to get in formation. Now they're getting the warning of side by side. They're going to be told to go at 70 k's an hour for the start of the race, and it's going to be all on. Remember, they've still got that mandatory stop, and that is where we've seen the entire grid flip on its head with some interesting moves that have gone out with the last 15 minutes of the race, or 9 minutes of the race, and pulling in the pits. Coming around to start it off, 70 k's an hour, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Rowe in first, and Brian Lewis lining up in second. Morgan McCall going to be getting involved as well in third place. But it looks like they're out of position ever so slightly. And away they go. Daniel Rowe trying to get an early jump, looks to go to the middle of the circuit, gets pushed a little bit onto the inside by Morgan McCall. Morgan now going very, very defensive, trying to close the door to stop the Hybrid Academy team from making their way through. And this is going to be interesting. So it is going to be a race on, ladies and gentlemen, as they power their way through. You can see Morgan trying to go very, very defensive. And this is where it starts getting a bit of work. And now we have got the Hybrid Academy team trying to work their way around one another. So this is where the teammate battle can either slow you down or get you further up the grid. Right behind them, though, you have got Anderson and Eugene van Longenberg chasing him down. So Longenberg is really putting the pressure on to try and make his way through. He's part of the BWR team in that pink and black. And so far what we've seen is the big Bentleys are able to cruise over the circuit without a problem. And we're expecting to see the front engines make a bit more of the effort around the circuit compared to our mid-engines. But still leading out, Brian Lewis is trying to open up a bit of a gap. Johannes Grayling now going out a little bit wide. He's doing everything he can, lying in 10th place, going after Dylan Hall right in front in that big Bentley. Two teammates looking to pull themselves along the circuit as well. So this is going to be some incredible racing so far, very clean. Gareth, it's been a bit of a clean start, which is
so far so good.
This is what we love to see. Now we were concerned about incidents happening on the start, and well, touch wood. I'm going to go and touch my head for this one, and it's all been clean. Shows the caliber of drivers. And saying that, Mark Henry in the Lamborghini biting the dirt and unfortunately putting him into the wall. And you can be sure sustaining quite a bit of damage to that Lambo. Yep.
Oh, he's not looking so good.
Not happy. Daniel Rowe under some serious pressure. Anderson went right up behind him through corkscrew. He managed to pull away, but for how long? Because Anderson is starting to get a little bit more feisty behind the steering wheel. He wants to get by. Remember, if he does that, he's going to pull Lewis right behind him through as well, because Lewis is literally hanging on the coattails of Anderson. So this is going to be turning into quite a battle, ladies and gentlemen. Further up, though, you have got Clue of BWR Racing, Black Widow Racing in that Audi, trying to keep Hall at bay. Hall really just breathing down the back of his neck, takes a look to the inside, just leans on that left mirror just to let him know that, hey, you might be having a race there, but I am right behind you. Don't get comfy. So this is going to be a little bit of a waiting game just to put a bit of pressure on, and at the same time, they don't want to wear those tires out too fast. So this is turning into quite a bit of a change-up as they make their way around the circuit. Gareth, what's your thoughts so far as you are the Hawkeye in the race?
So far it's pretty clean. It's nice to see that at least we're not going to have a huge gap between a couple of groups. I think, watching Mccall, he's already up, Junior Mccall, he's already up to 15. So I think that'll battle within battles is going to be an interesting one to watch during the course of the evening. One of the interesting things is, I raced this with an Aston, and this evening when I jumped on just to do a bit of a practice, that McLaren actually sits so nicely in these corners. You're talking about the Bentley earlier, these heavy machines. Those you got to get, you got to carry those weight through the corners, whereas these smaller cars, the Audis, the McLarens, they're really nimble in these quick corners. So it's also going to be interesting to see how these little nimble cars in the corners versus these heavy beasts as they come powering down. Watching Clue coming down that first stretch, his brake marker is, he brakes quite late, right? If you've got these heavy cars, they're going to have to take it easy. So this corkscrew, I'm interested to see if we're going to have a few incidents there at least to change things up.
Well, as it's been pointed out, bit of a change up at the front. Brian Lewis down into 4th place, making an error on the circuit, has thrown him down the field. Morgan McCall has inherited first place. Daniel Rowe in second place. Anderson into third. Brian Lewis really doing everything he can to try get back on the charge. But you can be sure that Morgan is now starting to open that gap, and he wants to start running away as quick as possible. And you could just see pushing the limits can cost you so much, especially with how close the guys are. It is going to make a massive, massive impact. So Lewis has got some work here as he's caught behind Anderson and Rowe, who both are in their own little dice for themselves. So it's going to turn into a very, very difficult circumstance for him to try and battle his way through it. Absolutely, what a change up at the front, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where it's going to get interesting. As we go further down, though, we've got Dark Adam, who's in a bit of a fight of his own. He's going after the guys. Krayling managing to get by. And now he's got Ottens all over the back of him. So Ryan Ottens of the Kai Racing team is pushing Adams right the way around the circuit. You could see leaning in the mirrors, just trying to let him know, hey, I'm around here, and try and force a mistake to happen. And this is going to be a bit of an interesting one. We know Adams can, well, in the best of terms, whenever someone's giving him a bit of a chase, he can fold those mirrors in, move the center mirror down, and focus on his race. He will not get unnerved too easily. Jumping onto Daniel Rowe, as you can see off that back splitter, with Anderson literally breathing down his neck at this point. You can just see that Aston, how late he is on the brakes, just able to sneak onto the back of the McLaren, but the McLaren able to get on the throttle just a little bit earlier. Mark Antle duking it out as he's going after Clue. So Clue now trying to push Antle to the limit, going towards turn one, and Antle having to drop back into the slipstream. Does look to go on the outside, while Clue is hard on the inside, looking for a cutback though. Is it going to be enough? Clue trying to go and get on that power, managing to hold the position, but Mark Antle really pushing hard at this point. And then you've also got Dwayne Hall right behind, who's pushing Antle to the limit as well. So this is going to be interesting to see how they can do it. The Retro team having a bit of a go at each other, and also looking to duke it out with Clue. Right behind them though, Loganberg, who's part of the BWR umbrella, trying to catch up to his teammate to add a bit of support, dives up on the inside of Mark Antle and looks to take that position away. Mark Antle though is starting to lose a bit of pace actually, as he's starting to fall down the field just a little bit. So this is a bit of an interesting one to see, but you can see Paul is not slowing up. He's onto the back of Clue and chasing down with that big Bentley.
Well, one thing I have noticed, if the car's on blue from Herbert Academy, then they are neon or pink. Well, not neon, what is that? Burgundy. Seems to be three key color themes running through this evening, or coming through in the league. Always good to see that pink though. But as you said earlier, what did we call it? The hybrid?
The Hybrid Academy umbrella.
Umbrella.
It's the umbrella.
No, I'm sure you used a better term for that. But I'm sure we'll remember later.
Stable.
The stable. There we go. The hybrid stable.
And definitely showing what they can do. And you can just see they stick out and work with each other quite well. And this is going to be a bit of an interesting one. You can see Anderson really trying to push hard to get onto the back of Rowe, who's driving incredibly defensive, keeping that tight line and just trying to hold everyone back. But there's Lewis now coming into play. Right behind him, Paul Herbert. Now, that's a name that we haven't spoken about in this race. Paul is one to watch out for, mainly on his pit stops. He tends to run right to the end of everything before, that Honda's fuel light eventually turns off because it hasn't got enough fuel to power the fuel light, and he manages to get in. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Ryan Otten still hard on a charge, and as you can see in the background shot, there is Junior Mccall up into 13th place and is really trying to keep the tow as he pulls himself along. Ryan Otten's looking to go on that inside line, and just not close enough. Goes late on the brakes to see if he can take a big look. Anderson feeling a little bit of pressure from Lewis, and there is Paul Herbert lying in 5th place, who's literally waiting for the opportunity to sneak by. Tim, the cameraman, unfortunately a little bit drunk today. Gareth, did you give him too many Red Bulls and too many shots before he got on?
That was the autopilot kicking in there, doing its thing.
Doing its own little wonder. There's Paul Herbert now charging right behind. He's looking to get right behind Lewis. Will it be enough though? In through the corkscrew, he needs to come on late onto the brakes. And interesting chat to the guys. Coming down the corkscrew, a lot of these top drivers are not using the brakes at all. They're lifting off the throttle. They're using the throttle just to rotate the back of the car. So as you come down the corkscrew into that right left-hander, they are using the throttle to guide their way all the way down and stabilize the car. So no brakes.
Yes.
A lot of them say if you catch onto those brakes, especially just coming off the corkscrew, that's the easiest way to go and write your will, sign it, and send it off to the missus before you go and climb into the wall.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So you have to be off the brakes even before your nose starts going down. And again, if you're a bit of an amateur like myself, if you get that angle wrong, then you have no grip. Your front tires actually completely lift off the ground. Then the next thing you're in the sand, and the rest is history.
That's it. A bit of a train going on, but Morgan Mccall starting to open up that gap. 3.2 seconds behind is Daniel Rowe, who is trying to fight back Anderson, Lewis, and Paul Herbert, who have all been duking it out with one another. A little bit further back, though, is Dwayne Hall lying in 10th place. He's on a bit of a hard charge going after Frayling. So going after the teammate late on the brakes, dives to the inside. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that was brake pedal all the way down and thinking about the handbrake at the same time to avoid a collision into corkscrew. Had a tremendous amount of pace, but unfortunately, Frayling was very, very early on the brakes there. And now it is all about Hall trying to figure out how is he going to get past and have a shot at Adam right in front.
Yeah, it is quite interesting to see so few close battles. I mean, normally you would see at least a couple of guys under the 5/10. So I don't know if that's a symptom of that corkscrew, the way that the guys come through and land up pulling away from each other. It creates that slight gap, so it's very difficult to maintain those close gaps throughout the lap. But I mean, we've got there's definitely a consistent gap between the guys.
That's it.
We've got 8/10, most of them within a second, 8/10. So consistency is key, between the guys, that's for sure. And Kube obviously a little bit further off with his 5-second gap. But in general, I think we've got a pretty consistent field.
That's it, and see a bit of action up at the front if you take a look at your timing screen. 3rd place, very, very close to Daniel Rowe. So Anderson is pushing incredibly hard and occasionally takes a look on the inside, as you can see, sticking that Aston's nose in the inside line just to let him know I'm around, and one mistake, I am taking that 2nd place right away from you. So now Rowe has to go defensive. You can see a little bit of a nudge there. Unfortunately, Anderson braking way, way late and just giving a slight nudge to the McLaren of Daniel Rowe. Unfortunately, Lewis tried going and taking a move and got caught out.
Completely closed off.
Yeah. Well, he had the door slammed on him with the bolt lock. That's it, with the bolt lock in tow. And allowed Paul Herbert to get a little bit closer now. So now Paul is within striking distance of that Audi. So this is turning into a bit of an interesting one. Now going a little bit further down the field. So the guys are all making their way through it. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to play a very interesting game now. Guess when they're going to pit. 1 hour and 5 minutes of the race. Now, I think it's going to be within 35 minutes, 40 minutes, they are going to start speeding their way into the pits. Junior Mccall really pushing Ryan Otten's hard, nearly climbing into the back of that Aston Martin. I
Need
think
to
at
eat
that
my
point,
words there, because McCall
yeah,
showed us how you stay on someone's tail going straight through that little corner. No need to open a gap.
I think at that point, Ryan Ottens was saying, listen, can I open my boot for you and just let
What a
you come
switch.
inside? But well done to Junior McCall in managing to get by. Ryan Ottens did open the door ever so slightly for him. Now what's going to be a good move for Ryan Ottens is, if Junior has got the pace, is to stick behind him and use him as a battering ram of sorts, because you can believe that Junior is very hungry, is super aggressive to try and push his way through, and you can use him to try and force the competition to take that wider line and allow you to move up through the position. So that is going to be something to consider as the guys make their way through. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Challenge for you guys in the comments. When do you think the drivers are going to start pitting? So regular, I do apologize, Alicio, we got Ken, Hannes van Veek. When do you think the guys are going to start pitting? And that's something for you guys to discuss in the comments as well. Gareth, any ideas on your side? Come on, I'm sure you're a betting man. Come on, you like those one-arm bandits. Let's try it out and see if you can score that naughty badge.
Well, I'm not quite a betting man, but if I was one, I would say at least, well, I'm going to go for a percentile type of vote here, and go that at least 25% of them are going to push it to at least within the last 20 minutes or so. And I think it might be the same characters we saw last time, and Kube, I think, might be one. Oh dear, as Lewis has another little spin out. Oh, at least he does it gracefully, gets himself pointed in the right direction, off he goes. Spinning 101. Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. What a performance.
Lewis going and doing a 360, and Paul Herbert at that moment taking the deepest breath he could ever take and avoiding it. But well done. That was beautiful car control, but unfortunately it shows you just push it that little bit too much. You hook the dirt, and with zero grip, these cars have a zero they got zero care for you, and they will throw you around like a rag doll. Absolutely incredible, but a lot of hard work has to go. He is 3 seconds down the back of Paul Herbert. Everything he fought to do to try and move up has now gone into the bin, and you have to come back. Another thing is how those tires looking after that 360. Remember, it's 35 degrees on the circuit. You've done a 360. You've now wiped out a lot of grip there. You've killed the life of your tires, and it's only going to progressively get worse. Now remember, a lot of these guys might actually keep the same set of tires on throughout the race, but in doing so, they need to drive incredibly nicely with them to ensure that they still have some grip left in the tires come the end of the race. As you can see, Bago dropping a wheel onto the dirt for the Hybrid Academy team, as he's really pushing hard to get onto the back of Ryan Ottens, who is definitely, he's on an absolute charge at the moment, trying to be incredibly defensive. And let's see how he will be able to do it. With Bago chasing him down.
That little corner there, sorry to interrupt, but Bago just gave us the perfect example of how you can slingshot yourself out of there to get huge momentum. But the tricky thing is, and with a lot of these corners, those little sausage curbs, either you get it right or you get it very wrong. But those corners with these big cars, that's where you obviously get that nice momentum and get launched out.
Yeah, this is where it gets very, very interesting, as they march their way around the circuit. Let's see if they'll be able to keep it going, as they really do everything they can to get right until the end. As you can see, occasionally the guys are starting to drop the wheel onto the dirt more and more. And that's a little bit concerning come the later parts of the race. We might see a bit more 360s from these guys because every single one of the drivers are pushing it to the limit at this point, trying to make up as much ground as possible. And I mean, so far, you take a look at the times, 123s seems to be the average time amongst the entire grid, might I add. All 19 cars are sitting with about 123 as their average time. Luke Anderson, though, his last time was a 122.9. And Morgan McCall doing a 122.92. So Morgan's got incredible pace at the front. Luke Anderson is second on that pace, but Daniel Rowe 123.2 with Paul Herbert doing a 123.0. So Paul's got a little bit more pace than Daniel Rowe. We'll have to see how that works out as the race continues. But taking a look back into the race, you can see the guys really having to work here. Ryan Otten's really holding back Bago Krobler, and this is going to be where it gets very, very interesting. Another thing to point out, Mark Ansell's been in the pits. He's done his mandatory pit stop. He was the first in after 15 laps of racing. So this is going to be absolutely incredible to see as they march their way up. Junior McCall up into 10th place, but going back to the race at hand, Bago Krobler has got Max chasing him down and really trying to keep it all together. Daniel Rowe, though, getting hunted down by Anderson. Now, remember, Anderson is faster than Daniel Rowe in the previous time, and we'll have to take a look if he has still got that pace, really just pulling onto the back of Daniel Rowe. Now, we've seen Daniel Rowe previously is able to maintain a good, solid pace that has benefited him in the previous races. Let's see how he's going to be able to maintain that through this race. Morgan McCall dropping a wheel on the dirt, just going and trying to keep it all together. He's got 4 seconds gap, but little mistakes like that can slowly get him sucked in by Daniel Rowe and Anderson, and he wants not to be a part of that fight at all. And another thing, just coming in, taking a look at the comments, Tark Adams is doing but he's actually performing very, very well, lying in 8th place, and he's carrying 24 kgs extra weight on the car. So Ken giving us a bit of insight there. Big thank you to Ken for the insight of down there in the pits. Definitely one of our secret reporters that have come into play here.
I was just about to say, we have our statistician or data analyst on board.
Absolutely. We've also got Robert McCall coming in and keeping an eye on Morgan McCall and on Junior. Now you can be sure he's keeping an eye on the stream to monitor what's going on and busy going and coaching his drivers all the way through, saying, listen, keep a cool, calm head. Junior McCall up into 9th place and is pulling Kraling. Managed to get by, but Kraling is really onto the back of Junior. We'll have to see if he'll be able to stick the whole way through. But now Junior's got a bit of work. 2.7 seconds behind Tark Adam. He's doing incredibly well. And Kraling, unfortunately, outbraking himself, losing a lot of time. Adam, though, is trying to get onto the back of Van Logenberg, who's up front of the BWR team. So absolutely incredible racing going on there. A little bit further down. Lots of little dices all over Gareth. And what's your thoughts so far of the race with 55 minutes and 30 seconds left?
Well, we should start seeing some of the guys coming in for their pits. I think Junior's doing a sterling job, considering where he came from. I'm sure he's going to have a keen eye on Adam's rear end, and I'm sure he'll be aware, or someone has notified him that Tariq is sitting with a bit of a challenge and that extra weight. But in general, again, there's good consistency. The guys are continuing with good race pace. The gaps between the guys aren't that big, so the guys are keeping it close. You know, once we start seeing the shuffle finish after the guys do their pit stops, I think we should be in for some good racing the last couple of minutes. See some good pushes, some good argy-bargy, pushing out elbows in some of these tight corners. I'm sure the guys are going to try and get as many points as they can, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Now, also taking a look, we got Clue and Van Logenberg together. Now, as teammates, the best thing you can do is not duke it out with each other, but instead work with each other, try to pull each other along to catch up to the rest of the field. They have got Tark Adam, who is chasing him down, but if they can work together, they can keep the door firmly closed and still pull their way through. Ryan Ottens, though, leading out a bit of a chain with Max right behind him and Bago Krobler in that big Bentley chasing him down. And well, a little bit earlier, we were talking about having a yellow car in the mix. There's a little bumblebee at the back of Skitter, who, well, the only way to say it, was the first to come onto the radar for the Noddy badge and now running off circuit. Commentator's curse, all I can say. He ran out of fuel 50 meters before the line at the end of a race, so he counts as a DNF previously, about 2 races ago. So definitely want to, yeah, he was on the radar for that. But so Skitter keeping it together. Bago Krobler dropping a wheel on the tip. No, it was Masters, I think.
Yeah, yes, Masters. There we go.
Masters was also scoring it. Bago Krobler, though, falling off and losing a lot of time. So this is where it starts getting a little bit unsettling. You've got to remember to keep calm, especially around the circuit. 52 minutes. Little mistakes can start to irritate you. And everyone can agree with this. The more that you get irritated, the more you stress yourself out, the more chance you're going to start falling down in your lap times and repeating mistakes because you're not concentrating. You start fighting with yourself, and that's something you do not want to do. Taking a look at Ryan Ottens duking it out with Max. So let's see how this is going to work out. The Ferrari all over the back of Ottens. So Max trying to see where he can go and how he's going to be able to do this. Heading up to the corkscrew, keeping in tow. Doesn't want to go too late on the brakes. There he goes right up onto the back of that Aston. But keep enough in the slipstream to get pulled along for the main straight. So this is going to be an incredible run for them. And oh, Max getting a little bit sideways there and scrubbing off just a bit of pace. And also, once again, a bit of grip going onto the loose marbles as well. Able to keep it together, but losing more and more time. I think we got to stop mentioning names because that commentator's curse is starting to stick out a little bit more every single time.
It's coming through thick and heavy. Coming through thick and heavy.
Don't worry, we figured out the dial, and it's 84 on the steering. We have to make sure of that one for the Formula 1 reference. Brian Lewis has gone into the pits as well, now lying into 16th, but done his mandatory stop. So interesting enough, Lewis going and pitting early. Bernard King has also dropped into the pits as well, looking to do his mandatory stop. Now we have got Anderson, and this is where it gets interesting. Anderson is close enough to try and make a move, but he's waiting a long game right behind Rowe. Not diving up on the inside, not trying to force a mistake out of him, but just trying to push him that little bit more to burn the tires off a little bit and work together to catch up to Morgan Mccall, which they have been doing. Morgan Mccall now only 3.3 seconds ahead, not 4 seconds. So Morgan, there we go, dropping a wheel on the dirt. Just that little bit is slowing him up and allowing Rowe and Anderson to slowly creep up onto the back of him. And that's where it starts getting a little bit tricky. Further down the field, we've got Paul Herbert into a 4th place, who is 3.5 seconds away. The little Honda just not having the pace to this evening, with Clue and Van Logenberg lying in 5th and 6th. As we jump aboard, here's a corkscrew down And I can tell you in real life, that is about 1.5, 2 stories worth of drop that you have to deal with. And in the car, especially with ACC, you don't see the bottom until you eventually get there. You got to guess where the corner is before you work your way down, which is absolutely frightening. And Gareth, as you brought it up a little bit earlier, you misalign your car, there's only one way you're going, and that's dirt to wall. That's it.
That's a dirt to wall, back on track, back on dirt, T-boned, back in dirt, wall. No, it all sounds familiar, absolutely. And these sausage curbs are so dangerous. So you've got so many things to watch out for in this track. The sand, the sausage curbs, obviously everyone in front of you, behind you. And that blind dip, as you mentioned it now, I actually don't know, well, I haven't driven another track that has a little blind dip of that nature. It's like a proper freefall. It's kind of like one of those rides at Gold Reef City. You sit on the edge, and the next thing you know, off you go.
You hope there's a floor at the bottom. Morgan Mccall, though, trying to open up the gap again, going 3.7 seconds, getting told, listen, you got to step up your pace. Rowe and Anderson are working together by the looks of it to push their way right up to the back. There's Anderson once again, he looks on the outside to carry a bit of pace, decides he's not going to go for the attack just yet, and will rather follow Daniel Rowe through. So a bit of work there, and also quite handy because we have spoken about this previously, Gareth. Getting stuck by yourself. You know, you can monitor your own race pace, but you eventually get so tunnel visioned that you lose track of yourself as well. As we drop a little bit back, Adam now in 7th place, trying to get onto the back of Clue. Clue going and backing him up into Junior, who is creeping right onto the back of him. So this is going to be interesting. Van Logenberg running away from his teammate Clue. So the BWR team now just trying to maintain their positions. They trying to work on that team standings with breaking up the Hybrid Academy team stable. And this is going to be where it gets a bit interesting of how they're going to work it. Remember, the more that you're going on defense or attack, you're wearing down those tires. Another thing to consider is you're starting to utilize more and more fuel in that regard as well. And that can set you up for a world of hurt, as we've seen, because as the sim has been changed, these drivers no longer have a fuel that is, you're only using 2.3 liters for the session. You're using 2.3 liters average for about 3 laps. And there we go. You can see Anderson pushing that little bit more, trying to avoid contact, but has definitely got the drive behind Daniel Rowe. So I wonder at this point, is it worth for him to get past Rowe and go chasing after Morgan Mccall? He's got the pace, he's showing it, but he also is getting held up ever so slightly by Daniel Rowe. Gareth, thoughts on this?
Well, as I said, it might well be a tactic where Addison just sits behind Rowe lap after lap, just keeping that consistency. Whether it is a tactical thing or whether it's just a case of Addison not being able to get past him, not quite sure. But the guys are definitely going to be vouching for each other and making sure that each one of them gets some of these top spots. I mean, we've just got blue cars all over the place.
Oh, we need a bit more yellows, I'm guessing then.
I think so.
Taking a look, guys starting to filter their way into the pits. Max now into the pits. Hambury now getting into the pits as well. So we're starting to see those guys starting to pit 45 minutes left of the race. So this is going to be where it starts getting interesting of when they're pitting. The crucial time seems to be around about 35 minutes, 40 minutes left is going to be your pit window of, get in and get out. You need to open about a 3-second gap. Now, I was having a chat to a couple of the drivers from the BWR team with them working out how long it takes to get into the pits. And they say that the overall pit time can set you back 28 seconds from entering the pits to exiting the pits with adding fuel. 28 seconds. Now, if anyone, you go talk to anyone in motor racing, how much 28 seconds is? Well, 28 seconds is an entire calendar. You're going to be in January, they're going to be in December, and they're going to be sending you a Christmas card saying, thanks, looking forward to 2022 by the time you exit the pits. So, bit interesting, the guys working out how long it's going to take into the pits, and you can be sure that the entire field has been working that out, especially for Laguna Seca, because Laguna's got that terrible pit exit where you've literally coming out mid-corner out of turn number 1. And there we go, Clue feeling the pressure, Junior Mccall hunting him down. I've got to say, Junior is incredibly impressive, coming from last place and is charging after the BWR driver. Clue now having to go very defensive to try and hold back the ATK Academy driver of Junior Mccall.
I definitely think we have a top candidate for drive of the day, that's for sure. Even though we're only halfway through, it's a long way to go. I'm sure we're going to see a couple of moves coming from him. I mean, he's already starting to suss out old Clue, trying to see where his weak spots are, when he can go and take it. But I think he's had a fabulous go at it so far today.
So we can throw in the dad joke here. He's looking for a clue. There we go, dad joke over. I do apologize. I'll see myself out. Gareth, you and I are both fathers here, so dad joke we can use at least once every year.
I'll go with once a day. Why not?
Absolutely incredible. Now, what will be amazing is to see what the sort of speeds that these two guys are doing. But, Mr. Hawkins, the Hawkeye, don't you have a certain software that we can get an idea of what sort of speeds are we seeing?
Oh,
there we go. Up into corkscrew, 202 to 210 kilometers an hour by Junior Mccall, heading into corkscrew. Now, I know in your previous software we'll take a look at, there was a way to actually see what their top speed was. Are we able to bring it up on screen?
Yes. That we can. That we can indeed.
So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, just showing you a bit of the telemetry data coming through, and I don't quite see where
the top speeds.
I don't see the top speed anymore, but a very interesting point here. Brian Lewis has got 7 laps to pit. Take a look. 7 laps to pit, 27 laps to pit is Morgan Mccall. So Morgan has slightly more fuel than Brian Lewis. And that just gives you a bit of an understanding of where the guy's sitting, of their generally what sort of laps they are estimated to go into the pits. And that's a bit of a data telemetry coming in, what the drivers are going to be utilizing to try and suss out the competition. While a lot of these drivers do have race engineers in their ears telling them, hey, listen, this is what we need to do. We're going to try change up the strategy. But take a look, Paul Herbert has gone into the pits as well, now lying in 12th place. So we have got from 12th to 19th all in the pits. And take a look, Clue and Junior having the exact same thought process. 40 minutes in, get into the pits as fast as possible. So BWR has sussed it out. Eugene van Logenberg, though, has opted. He is going to stay out. He is going to boost his way around. And lying in 3rd place, he's going after Anderson and Morgan Mccall. So this is where it's going to be interesting. We're seeing the half of field starting to get in the pits and get their pit stops done and dusted. The other half staying on the circuit, trying to maximize the amount of laps that they can do to try and break away from the grid. So 35 minutes, 40 minutes was the estimated time when it would be the ideal time to pit. And these drivers are starting to use it. Kraling and Hall duking it out between each other. The two teammates trying to pull their way around the circuit and utilize the slipstream. You could see Paul does take a look to the inside, opts rather not to go and dive bomb his teammate into the corkscrew because, well, that would be a very interesting talk in the pits of, well, listen, I had a little bit more pace, but I thought the corkscrew was a little bit wider to fit both an AMG and a Bentley through side by side.
Why not? Easy game.
Easy game. You don't need the mirrors, the doors, or anything at that point. You just take them both off the circuit.
That's it. Just put your elbows wide.
That's it. And as you can see, Hall making a big dive up on the inside, trying to also fight back a little bit. So a bit of a fight between the two drivers, opting to give each other a bit of fun. Remember, they're still duking it out for driver championships, and we'll have to see how it goes as they make their way through. Daniel Rowe in the pits, though, 8th place, so he's trying to work his way around. He's also into the pits. That's allowed Nkube to get in front of him. Morgan Mccall has gone into the pits. He's now in 7th place, so Morgan is the highest of the positions that have gone into the pits. So this is going to be interesting. He's got the jump out and has a little bit of work, but in theory, if he can maintain his pace of 123s, 122s, he should be able to work his way back into 3rd place because he has done his mandatory pit stop. So this is going to be a very, very interesting. So last lap, Eugene van Longenberg doing a 123.7 as his fastest time. Hall doing a 124. Krayling doing a 124. Luke Anderson doing a 123. Bago on a 124. So Morgan has got the pace to try and pull himself up through the field right there. It's going to be tight. It's going to be lots of hard work, but you can be sure that the drivers are going to try and capitalize on this as fast as they can. And especially with 37 minutes left of this GT3 race, brought to you by Raceface, Season 6, Run number 5. And Gareth, this is absolutely incredible racing, and also starting to see a little bit more of the strategies coming into play. Example, what the guys going for that 40-minute as that sweet spot. What do you think?
Well, I think we've got, as I predicted, well, I thought maybe in the last 20 minutes at least have 25%, and Kube is one that I anticipated would push it a little bit further. And if we look at the stats of how long the guys, the full length of going through the pits, it seems to average around 60 seconds. So, I mean, if you're able to get the timing right and you have the luxury of an engineer on the back end, if you get your strategy right, you could quite easily capture some of the key spots that you're actually fighting for. The guys currently on top, I mean, there we've got Hall and Bago Grobler now going in. Lochrenberg now taking the lead, obviously with all the guys going in. So once he goes in, he'll lose a couple of positions. But I mean, 60 to 65 seconds for a pit stop, you know, that's definitely going to put a dent in your position on the leaderboard.
So this is going to be a bit of a change up. Lewis moving up into 6th place. He's on a bit of a hard charge. Morgan into 3rd. Anderson into 4th. So now it's going to turn into a bit of a battle there. Nice to see Nkube climbing up through the field, but unfortunately I think it's going to be a short-lived situation when he gets into the pits, as he'll start falling a little bit down the field, because if you take a look, only 3 drivers haven't pitted, and that's Van Longenberg, Krayling, and Nkube that still need to pit. And there we go, Tark Adam with that extra 28 kgs, getting a little bit of a bounce, gets it sideways, able to keep it together. Junior Mccall says thank you very much, dives right past him, but well done to Adam, who managed to get a little bit out of shape and still hold that McLaren. Not many people can do that. Once a McLaren bites, sometimes it bites a lot harder than expected. That's for certain. And Adam's showing he's a true pro driver in terms of keeping it all together. Very late on the break, so he is hungry to go after the back of Junior. Junior in 9th place, still pushing incredibly hard to try and get onto the back of the BWR Clue.
Le Clue.
Looking for the clue at this point. And now Paul Herbert, the only Honda in the field from Team Tryhard Racing Pro, looking to try and make his way around. He's got Lewis in front of him, and Nkube as just in front as well. So they are trying to work their way around the field and see where they're going to end up. And you can see Herbert just trying to put a bit of pressure on. He's looking maybe to go on the inside of Nkube. Dives up hard on the brakes. Nkube opts to not fight for the position, allows Herbert through, and will utilize the slipstream to get pulled along. So that's one thing about the Team Tryhard Racing. Paul Herbert is he's playing a little bit of a long game here, and I have to also go hats off. He's not running until the last 9 minutes before he gets into the pits. So, doing a little bit of calculations. Now, I'm terrible at math, might I add, but that's why we've got calculators. In theory, if you can maintain a 123 pace, and in theory, if you can keep your fuel level pretty happy, 2.17. Let's give you a bit of work there. Liters per lap. If you can keep that, in theory, 126 liters is all that you need to get to the end of the race. Add on a bit of the formation lap. You're going to need to push it to about 130 is going to be your safe bet. But trailing with a 30-second stop-go penalty. Oh my heavens!
Overzealous there in the pits, was he?
That second gear when you come out. So that's the thing. It's very easy to get caught out because you come out of the pits and you think you might be clear. You go from first to second, and it immediately takes off that pit limiter to allow you for go-go action. While we've got our traffic officer in the pits who opted that trailing needs to be fined with a 30-second penalty. So well done to our traffic officer, but you can be sure that trailing is saying a few colorful words of the rainbow underneath that helmet this evening.
Absolutely. As you see, Mccall still chasing down Clue here, coming down onto which, how many laps have we completed now?
34 laps, going on to the 35th now.
4 laps. And Mccall has been so consistent throughout. And that's all you need. Consistency is key. Make sure you get a reasonable pace. You don't need to be the quickest guy. You just need to have the most consistency at a reasonable pace, and off you go. And Mccall's got the combination of consistency, really good pace, and he's hungry this evening.
Yeah, definitely. That quali ban has put a fire underneath him, and the steward's going and saying, listen, here's a little bit of a warning for you. That's the thing to remember. We have got live stewards that go back and look at this racing. They go through the incident reports, and a big thank you to our stewards for doing it. And we've got to just point out, ladies and gentlemen, these are volunteers, not paid. They are volunteers that are stewarding. So the peers that you see racing, the peers of our racers going back and looking at the more critical points, which well, to be honest, Gareth, I don't think I have the heart to do it. Going and taking a look at the caliber of the drivers. Yes, if you can point out the incidents of, hey, listen, you're a little bit overzealous, but still, to go and dish out a quali ban, I would be having a heartache from here to Kingdom Come, and also having a 1, 2, 3 mini milkshakes later to try and suppress feelings at this point.
Well, you know, you'll probably drop down on the priority list in dishing out of Christmas cards, that's for sure.
Oh, yes, that is it. So big thank you to our, and I have to chuck it in there because our stewards don't get a lot of love. Big thank you to them and also the Raceface admin team for all the hard work that they do. We 29 minutes left of the race, and take a look. Hall charging after Adam, and you can see getting so close with that Bentley, and Adam's just able to pull away with the McLaren. He's in the slipstream, but you can see that Hall is tired of hanging around. He's tired of seeing the McLaren, looking to go and try and look for any way to get past into the corkscrew. Very late to the brakes, going to try and carry the drive all the way down. And will it be enough to try pull a little bit closer to that McLaren? He's so close. It's within fingertips, but unfortunately just not able to go and push his way up.
Ooh,
and that looks to be
Hambury.
Hambury having a rough time once again. Oh, it's going to be a bit of a rough one. As we take a look, Junior, Mccall, and Clue still duking out with each other. More Junior going on the outside of Clue. Clue having to go very defensive. So is Adam. And take a look at the side-by-side further up. Clue getting a better drive than, than Mccall. Tried pushing him out a little bit wide onto the dirt. And absolutely incredible racing. But well done onto well done onto the Clue. Try keeping Junior at bay. And well, Gareth, I'm going back here because we have got a bit of an interesting discussion going on. Robert Mccall, Junior Mccall, and Morgan McCall's dad coming in and saying, FYI guys, Junior and Morgs are using engine mapping 2. So that means they're saving a little bit on tire and, well, on their tires, and they're saving a little bit on fuel. Turning it to engine mapping 1, which is the fastest mapping in these cars, is going to give them a bit of an edge through the field. So with the incredible times that they've been doing, they have been doing it on engine mapping 2. We've also got Ken jumping in and saying it's probably to save the tires because the Mercs have a natural habit of eating the tires for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we're getting a bit of insight from the pits and from our commentating engineer down in the comments, letting us know the insights to the sim. Absolutely incredible. Gareth, what do you think of this?
Well, as it stands, Junior Mccall is in essence fighting for the podium, and Kube's going to go in for his just over a minute little pit stop at some point, so that's going to drop him down a fair amount in the field. Then Junior's got in essence about 20 minutes to go once he gets past him to fight for that podium position. If he gets that, then I tell you, it just that's phenomenal. What superb driving. I mean, even so far to get to the position he is through this field of drivers, it's been fantastic.
Absolutely. The level of competition and the caliber of every single one of these drivers is so amazing. And we've got to remember that this is our pro tier. Right underneath is our pro-am, and they're not far off the pace as well. Pro-am guys are also running 123s as an average time. So they literally just didn't get in by 0.5 of a second into pro. And it really shows you how the sim racing in South Africa and in the sim racing in Raceface has just gotten better and better, and the grids have gotten faster and faster. I mean, you and I have both experienced this, where we spend majority of the time getting lapped by these pros. So definitely going to be a interesting one to take a look. Also,
well, let me tell you, almost every time I race with these guys, sorry to cut you off there, all I keep hearing is faster car behind you, faster car behind you. Yes, I understand. I see that.
just make the review mirror a lot bigger. So this is absolutely incredible. Taking a look also at, I have to agree with Ken, is let's see if Morgan has enough tires to keep Luke Anderson at bay. Luke Anderson is 4.9 seconds behind, but is slowly starting to draw him in a little bit further back. Hall managing to get on the outside of Adam. Is it going to be enough? Does a little bit of a cutback. Unfortunately, loses out a lot of pace. That has allowed Clue to dive up on the inside. So Clue got a bit sneaky there. Said, thank you very much.
What a sneaky.
Clue, that little Audi stuck his nose in, and now Eugene van Logenberg as well, big nose in, shoving him out wide. Hall is definitely not having a fun time. BWR deciding we are racing for cancer, and at the same time, we are going to be ultra sneaky assassins at this point. And Hall really feeling it. So absolutely incredible racing. Take a look at Clue all over the back of Tark Adam. Now, Tark Adam has got 28 kgs ballast on him as well, and he's trying to keep the BWR team right behind him. But Lionel Clue absolutely on a charge, and he's pulling his teammates along in the process. But taking a look in the comments, we've got a lot of pro drivers joining in. JC Frobler even putting in, saying Junior is really impressive and has got the pace. So that is saying something when you got your fellow pro tier drivers going and saying, listen, go, go, go. And Morgan Mccall getting some support as well. So love to see that the crowd getting involved, supporting the team, supporting the drivers, and really going through. Clue goes and mucks up the corner though. Eugene having to play a little bit of an avoidance and managing to hold Hall at bay. There we go. Eugene diving up on the inside. And take a look, coming up hard on the brakes, looking for the inside line. Big Bentley of Hall pushing the Audi as far as possible. Both of them going into the dirt. And there we go. Oh, bit of contact between Hall and Clue, and it looks like, there we go. I've got to point out there, well done to Hall.
Yeah.
Saying, listen, that was my fault. I got a little bit overzealous and being a bit of a gentleman there. Hats off to those two drivers. Clue, though, unfortunately, nowhere to go. And Hall just had braked that little bit too hard, turned it in, and the car just understeered from underneath him. And unfortunately, as we know, when that happens, you're a passenger at that point. There's no way of trying to stop it. So that is one thing to just keep an eye out for. Eugene now all by himself as he charges after the back of Tark Adam with 21 minutes left of this race. Let's see if Adam will be able to keep Eugene at bay, which I think is going to be incredibly hard as they push their way through the field. Now the tires are going to start wearing down. But we have to also talk about the elephant in the room. In Kube, 21 minutes left of the race. 17 minutes until that pit window closes, and he is yet to go into the pits.
Yep, so he's at least one of their 25% that I anticipated would. But I think so that definitely seems to be a common strategy for Nkube for sure, because it's we often see him getting to this stage of the race and sitting in that position where he still needs to go and do his pits. But Hall, of course, still on Clue's Hall nice and tightly.
All over the rear end of that Audi. This is turning into quite a big battle here between Hall and Clue as they race around Laguna Seca, really pushing each other to the limit. You can see how late they're climbing on the anchors to just try and keep ahead of one another. The big Bentley able to ride the curbs a little bit better over the Audi of Clue. So Hall just trying to utilize the big Bentley's stability at this point, while you got Clue, who's just trying to outpower his way through every corner to get ahead.
Look at that size difference. You'd cock yourself if you see that thing come bearing down you in a corner.
That's it. Your left, right, and center mirror all covered by the Union Jack of the Bentley, and absolutely incredible. And Kube now into the pits, and there we go, tumbling down the field. Late strategy, I don't think works well on this this circuit, to be honest, unfortunately, and I think Kube is now feeling it as he starts tumbling further and further down the grid. Eugene pushing hard to get onto the back of Adam. So we've got McLaren versus Bentley and Audi versus Bentley. The BWR team duking it out with the Hybrid Academy team and with the Retro stable as well. So this is turning into quite a race between the two teams and the four drivers who know each other very, very well. They all came up through the Pro-Am right into the Pro. They've been racing with each other for quite a bit of time, and it's absolutely grand to see them going wheel to wheel with one another and keeping it clean. Well, let's say giving enough room to put a piece of paper between them, but 2 pieces of paper might be a little bit too overzealous, I would have to say. One driver that's been on an absolute charge with engine mapping 2 might change it down to engine mapping 1 in the later parts is Morgan Mccall, opening a 5.1 second gap. Now, I remember way back in a different series, Junior was outpacing Morgan. And Morgan always worked on consistency, where Junior was the glass cannon. You know, he was incredibly quick. And, well, it seems like the roles have reversed. Morgan has really utilized that more consistent pace and is able to move further up through the field. While Junior, still an incredible driver, has got the pace that's pretty much unrivaled at this point, but does get frustration, does get to him a little bit as well. But we've also got to talk about, it's once again a bit of an age gap as well, as Junior is in towards 12, 13 years old. He's really showing what he can do in the sim racing scene, and especially to be taken on board by the ATK team, to have these 2 drivers. It's absolutely incredible, that's for sure. But the race that I want to carry on, take a look, is Van Lockenberg and Adam still duking out. But we have a bit of a shock. That's Mark Hambury, who's had a bit of a rough race. He took a little bit too much dirt a little bit earlier on, smashed the front end of the Lamborghini, and a little bit later towards the race, losing the back end and really pointing in the wrong direction. So a little bit of a rough time for the BWR team of Mark Hanbury, but he is just happy to be around, and once again showing the support against the fight against cancer. So well done to the BWR team for that. And they have the support of all the sim racers as well. They might not be in the pink, but they all support the cause as well in the fight against cancer. So hats off to the BWR team and to the sim racing community as a total for the support to it. But the battle for Eugene and Adam, you can see Adam taking a little bit more curb than planned, and that's allowed Eugene to get a little bit closer. Eugene having to go out very wide though, and try and make his way through. Junior Mccall charging past, and that's Skitter that's right behind him. Your Bumblebee Ferrari that pulled on our heartstrings a little bit early on in the season. Still having a good race as he makes his way through. Junior lying in 4th place, going after Paul Herbert in 3rd. Side-by-side action, you can see Eugene really tried to do everything he can. Push to the outside line. Eugene trying to work his way around Adam. Adam is really forcing him out wider, trying to close that door with the bolt lock. But Eugene is coming with the axe and going, yes, Eugene, at this point. So absolutely incredible racing from the 2. Gareth, what's your thoughts of this, of how close the battle is between Eugene and Adam?
Well, you mentioned something interesting earlier with you got Bego Grobler in the Bentley sitting behind the Audi. Yeah, you got Van Lochenberg sitting behind Adam in the McLaren. And I think it's two similar battles where you've got these heavy beasts at the back as Van Lockenberg decides he's going to take the inside and squeeze through the corkscrew, and off he goes. Now you'll probably see he'll gain the momentum if he keeps the momentum through the corners. As soon as he gets up to one of these other, oh, there's a Ferrari off as Skitter decides to check how the sand castles are doing there. But we find, well, I'm at least seeing these smaller cars, if you've got the big car behind them, coming into that corner, they have to slow down quite a bit, and pulling out of that corner again, between the Audi and the McLaren, they're actually pulling away. So I think that's also causing these little glitches, or not glitches, but little battles where you've got these bigger vehicles behind these quicker, nimble things. But now that he's passed, he should actually open it up a bit and try and hunt down Junior McCall, which I think will be a tall order with 15 minutes to go and a fair gap between them. But you know, McCall slowly but surely getting himself up to that podium position. But I'm sure he's going to hope that the Honda slips once or twice, catches a little bit of sand, because he's a fair distance, of course, behind Herbert, but still at it, and still a couple of interesting battles to come out before the end.
I wouldn't count out Adam though. Adam is still hanging on to the back of the coattails of Van Loggenberg. But I've got to go hats off to both Adam and Van Loggenberg to go for an overtake at the top of corkscrew. You've got to trust each other that you're not going to make a mess and you know what you're doing. Because we've seen him more than once trying to overtake at the top of corkscrew, 9 times out of 10 ends in massive amount of tears. So well done to both drivers, but now Adam has got a hard charge to try and catch up to Van Loggenberg, who is starting to open up a bit of a gap. A little bit further down the field though, Trailing going off to the back of Bernard King, so Bernard trying to keep it all together. Trailing part of the retro slipstream, really on a hard charge with that big Mercedes, chasing after, well, let's say the most stable car that any of us have driven so far. It's the go-to standard for when you're just getting into the sim, the Aston Martin, Bernard King's favorite, who's also, Bernard's been driving the Aston for a while and has been working on the setup little by little. He knows what the car can do, he knows where the car's little quirks are, if I could put it that way, and is trying to utilize that in keeping Trailing right behind him, where Trailing is in the newer AMG GT3 that's been recently released. It's been putting in some serious time to work on the setup of the car to make sure that it could stick. And there we go, dives up onto the inside, hard onto the brakes. Bernard trying to fight back, unfortunately pushes far too wide out and loses out a massive amount of time. So there's something to just point out through turn 1. If you are on the outside, if you carry too much speed into that corner, because it's a very wide corner. Turn 1 is massively wide. You can have a drag race through it. But
it's a deceptive double apex.
Exactly. You can really mess yourself up for that second apex if you go far too wide, because you can, but you also got to be aware that, hey, you got the run off, but it's a double-edged blade. As you pointed out, that double apex really lets drivers know that, listen, you're in for a hard time if you miss me. And that's what we saw with Bernard King.
Well, that's it. If you miss that first apex, it actually feels like it takes forever for you to get back into a position when you can get onto the throttle again, because you're just coasting through there. It feels like you're on the Titanic trying to get through that corner before you can get going again.
So basically, whenever you and I drive, that's what we're doing. We're on the Titanic, we're just coasting through the circuit.
That is it. Beware.
Beware. If you see a blue and white car or a yellow car with Hawkins and Koenig, we're the mobile chicanes. We're basically Monza's chicanes if you come up behind us. But let's get back to the pros here. As we take a look, Daniel Rowe going after Bago Krobler. Daniel Rowe really on a hard charge. A bit sad to see him a little bit further down. The strategy just didn't work out as planned. And now he is caught behind his teammate in that big Bentley. The Hybrid Academy team, well, the stable of the Hybrid Academy team is really doing everything they can to try and work on the points for their entire team. So that's where it's going to be beneficial for them. They're looking at the team aspect, not the driver aspect. And Sean Skitter of the BRZ EKZ Motorsport, and is the only one of his team racing in the pro, has been doing actually quite well. Had some heartache moments. He's still trying to keep it all together. That Ferrari just really not a happy one on the Laguna Seca, which seems to be the Achilles heels of a lot of drivers. So this is going to be an interesting one. But Morgan Mccall starting to open up a bit of a gap with Luke Anderson following 5.7 seconds behind. And that's going to be a bit of a...
I'm not sure about Anderson, but I'm sure we can check in on what is happening with Edison on this lap.
Yes, Addison. So yeah, Addison, I do apologize. I got that completely wrong. Shame on me. But Addison, 5.7 seconds behind. He is trying, but unfortunately, it looks like Morgan Mccall has got a lot of life left in those tires. But now, without looking at the comments, Gareth, looking with 8 minutes and 34 seconds left, who would you say has been the driver of the day?
Unfortunately, I did glance at it before you made that statement, but I absolutely agree. This young man has had an absolute stunning day. Well, I suppose in all fairness, it could have been a little bit cleaner. I think he's obviously been pushing himself quite hard, because we just saw him go off slightly there, and I'm sure it's happened quite a couple of times. And those small nudges off the track takes off, you know, that 100th of a second, that gets you closer to these guys that are putting in these consistent and near perfect laps. But absolutely, what a wonderful drive he's had today, with only 7 minutes to go, going from right at the back and battling it through to basically sitting on podium's door. What a day.
The AT Academy team must be quite happy with the results that so far. As we know, it isn't over until the checkered flag comes out, the fat lady sang, and the microphones of the commentators have turned off. So there's no commentator's curse, because anything can happen in motorsport.
Well, that's the last 10 minutes that we're in, so this is where you would see a lot of the guys pushing. I think a lot of them are in a bit of a spot of trouble if they're wanting to grab an additional position on the leaderboard. The gaps are fairly wide at this stage, so I think most of the guys are going to have to try and do something to close those gaps. Rowe, of course, quite close on Grobler, being our closest battle at this stage, and even that is a few car widths distance apart.
Bago at the moment keeping Daniel Rowe at bay so far as he's making his way through. Daniel has been making little errors that have been costing him time, where Bago is able to just keep it on the track and keep the momentum. Daniel Rowe once again showing that he can have the pace, but I think a little bit of frustration kicked in a bit, and he has lost out a bit of time. Clue lying in 10th place of the BWR, with Ryan Ottens in 11th place as well. You can just see, just off shot there, Clue starting to creep up 1.9 seconds. So we might, if the mistakes carry on happening, we may have Clue right onto the back of Daniel Rowe. It's going to be a tall order to get it, but it is possible. Addison, second place, all by his lonesome, has had quite a race, if I could put it this way, and has now got himself into a bit of a comfortable position with 5.5 seconds. He can't slack off, but I think he can be reasonably comfortable for that second place and start working on just the survival until the end. Paul Herbert in third place with the Honda, first place, Morgan McCall. 53 laps, ladies and gentlemen, completed by our leader.
And there we can see basically one worm sitting at the back there, all of them sitting behind Antil. But outside of that, some good spacing between the guys. So unless we see some slip-offs, I don't foresee too many changes in that top 10.
As we said, it isn't over until the fat lady sings, the microphones are turned off, and that checkered flag comes out. That's a definite. We have seen heartache at the end too many times, Gareth. We've seen it. I used to say that we can pretty much sum it up, but we've seen a few things that have made us both, when we go off air, go, we did not see that one coming. So absolutely incredible. And with 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go of the Raceface GT3 Championship here with ACC Season 6, round number 5 at Laguna Seca Raceway here in California. Well, in California there, and us sitting in South Africa. We also got to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Resource Complete, Racing Club International, Statement Watches, and TGN Racing Simulators, along with Speed Labs, which has been taking the drivers around and showing them how to get faster and faster here on ACC, with some personal one-on-one coaching, and also with having coaching, well, whole group coaching as well for Speed Labs. So absolutely incredible. Pit window now closed, so it is all about going to charge until the line. And at the same time, I hope you got enough fuel, folks. This is going to be the time to start counting how many laps you got left, and Skitter really outbraking himself in the background. You could just see that Bumblebee Ferrari launching himself off through the final corner. Bago Krobler, though, is doing everything he can. Clue managing to get past. Daniel Rowe got past, but Bago is trying to get onto the back of Clue, that BWR Audi. And Clue's been in some considerable battles, and now it is looking to be, once again, Bago versus Clue.
Looks like both of them have a couple of battle scars on them, as you see the bonnets bouncing a little bit of the damage. Bago Krobler looking like he has been a little bit worse off for wear, but the two of them still maintaining it. Slight little slip-offs. And the tyres, of course, as a person gets closer to the end of the session, it can become problematic, because as you want to start pushing and getting a little bit more out of the corners is actually the worst time, because your tyres just don't permit it.
Exactly. And well, you know, Bago taking that little bit of damage might be from the impact a little bit earlier on, but it's definitely affected his front aero. As you can see, he's really struggling with the car, and in doing so, he's really scrubbing those tires more and more, so he's losing more traction. It's kind of a domino effect at this point. You've put a lot into aero work, and then you take away that little bit of aero, you haven't got as much mechanical grip because you relied on the aero, and it's now starting to scrub away as you're having to work just a little bit harder to keep the car on circuit. Alan Maxo having a bit of fun in the Ferrari. Junior McCall up into 4th place as he is charging his way around the back markers at this point. And well, I think he's put the engine map to 1 because he's really pulled out the pace this last couple of laps, and has really marched his way through to the top. Looks like he's going to miss out that 3rd position unless there is a fault with our top 3, but bit on a bit of a drive right until the line, hard on the brakes, so you could just see how they've got to make the car come to a complete stop, as that final bend is pretty much a 90-degree angle at best. And Robert McCall saying Morgan's tires are still green and says they are as fresh as lap 1.
Ah,
my heavens.
now that is management.
That is
I think we need
56
to
laps
set
in.
up some private lessons on how that should be done.
I can tell you how we're managing to do it. We're not on circuit, so they don't have to worry about it. But yes, also I have to agree. Well done to Luke, who's been doing an incredible job in maintaining his pace. Also, Talk jumping in. He's currently lying in sixth place. He's got 24 kgs of ballast on top of him, part of the Hybrid Academy Team Velocity, part of the Hybrid
Oh dear.
Academy stable. And there we go. Race over. Morgan McCall taking the win. Addison in second place. Third place will be going to Paul Herbert in the Honda. Junior McCall rounding up as he makes his way through, heading into fourth place, losing a little bit of the tail end, and really on a hard charge. Absolutely amazing work.
Swerve.
Then fifth place is going to be Eugene van Loggenberg of Team BWR. Tark Adams, sixth place. Absolutely incredible work. You've also got Dwayne Hall lying in seventh place. Eighth place goes to Daniel Rowe, managing to get ahead of his teammate. The Clue into ninth place. We've got Bago Hrobler coming across the line. Ryan Ottens looking to finish up in 11th place. Bernard King in 12th. Johannes trailing in 13th. Max into 14th place. Antil into 15th. Skitter into 16th place. Absolutely wow. Wow, wow, wow. Laguna Seca really putting out, and our pros showing exactly how it is done here at Laguna Seca. And what a shot. There we go. The two ATK drivers are lined up. The two brothers that had to work hard. Morgan with the win and Junior with the charge from the back of the grid. Luke in second place, and hats off to him for the incredible work to get all the way up there. Gareth, but what do you think of that race?
What an evening. I think, again, I mean, we can't say enough about old Junior and the effort he put in. But Morgan, for him to go and get that lead so early on and maintain it and pull away like that, I mean, again, both brothers, fabulous race. I think it's I think that drive of the day should be shared between the brothers. Absolutely, the one maintaining lead consistently throughout, and the other one, at the end of the day, chasing one of the podium spots. So for them, fantastic race, but across the board, great consistency, fantastic race, really enjoyed it. Thank you very much to you for the time spent in the box. Thank you very much to those that joined, provided some commentary on the stream, as well as some data points. Love it, keep it coming. And I think for today, I don't know if there is a Blue Pearl Award. There's definitely a tie for Drive of the Day, in my opinion. I suppose we need to get some additional votes in there. But Blue Pearl of the Day, I think maybe I should take that one, for the start off of the race, because we can't dish that out to anyone that drove today.
No, unfortunately, I think the commentary box gets the naughty badge for this race. A big thank you to our sponsors, Speed Labs, Resource Complete, Racing Club International, Statement Watches, and TGN Racing Simulators for coming and joining us here at Raceface GT3, round number 5 of our Season 6. Gareth Hawkins, buddy, absolutely fantastic to be in the box with you and having that insightful insight with some of your data. And also a big thank you to our spectators making this an absolutely special race. We'll see you next Thursday with some future action as we head out for round number 6. And I honestly can't wait for it. Make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube page, hit that bell notification icon. Also go and take a look at our Facebook page. And if you feel like you want to come and duke it out with sim racing's finest, go and join our Raceface Discord, or even go to www.raceface.pro and come and join in with the absolute action with ACC and many more sims. And as we start, Gareth, I'd like to say it again. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. We'll see you next time.